welcome to the Sanctuary Boston. It is so good to be with you all here in person, and welcome to those of you online as well. This is a time that we hope you will take as yours to feed your spirit, to listen to your heart and body, to listen for that still small voice that tells you what you need right now. We hope that if you want to party, you will party with us. Whoop. And we hope that if you want to soak it in, you will soak it in. Let us worship together, folks.
Here we go. Look around when all of your walls come crashing down. Where will it turn? Could you ever stop for a second just to pick up the pieces of your shattered life? Always running one small step behind. You're losing faith in your power to change. Then decide to break free and lift your eyes on this love that you cannot hide. So even when your heart breaks, know that the sun's still gonna shine. If ever you feel just like you're not enough, listen to your heartbeat, listen to your heart speak. And when words are not enough, just take a leap of faith, take a step and learn how to live and love. Gotta hope and trust in all the mysteries that you will find. Uncover the truth, there's more than meets the eye. Keep it all wrapped up inside. Who would ever know if you don't let it show? Even when you think that you are at the end, and that rope that you hold fast and keep holding on, keep holding on. Then decide to break free and fix your eyes on this love that you cannot hide. So even when your heart breaks, know that the sun's still gonna shine. If ever you feel just like you are not enough, listen to your heartbeat, listen to your heart speak. And when words are not enough, just take a leap of faith, take a step and learn how to live and love. Gotta hope and trust in all the mysteries that you will find. Cover the truth, there's more than meets the eye. More than meets the eye. Oh, 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 more than meets the eye. Oh, 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 more than meets the eye. You are not enough. Listen to your heartbeat, listen to your heart speak. And when words are not enough, just take a leap of faith, take a step and learn how to live and love. Gotta hope and trust in all the mysteries that you will find. Uncover the truth, there's more than meets the eye. Thanks, y'all.
Sometimes I go so slow, I feel I'm stuck. Sometimes I fall so low, I feel I'm stopped, and that's okay. and that's okay, and that's okay, and that's okay. Sometimes I go so slow, I feel I'm stuck. Sometimes I fall so low, I feel I'm stopped, and that's okay, and that's okay, and that's okay, and that's okay. Sometimes I'm rising fast, I feel I'm flying. Sometimes I'm right on task, it's all aligning, and that's okay, and that's okay, and that's okay, and that's okay. 'Cause today is what it needs to be. Another day is coming soon, and I know that there is room. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay to be afraid. So when I feel so low and I am stopped, I just need to know I am who I am, these thoughts are not, and that's okay, 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 and that's okay.
Our chalice lighting today is Augury or the Birds by Amanda Gorman. In ancient Rome, augurs were official diviners, their darting eyes interpreting omens in the inked stain of birds across the sky. Their job was not to prophesy the future, but to determine if their new-named gods approved of an action before it began. The only way to correctly predict the future is to pave it, is to brave it. The breakage is where we begin. The rupture is for remembering. That is to say, here is where we hold our hurt. We integrate our dreams into the end journey. We consecrate at the cut. Under a searcher of sun, we sense ourselves stir slowly, sweetly, as if for the first time This nearly tore us apart. Yes, indeed, it tears us to start.
Thank you, Mira, for reading our chalice lighting. Mira turns 10 on Saturday. Happy birthday, Mira. I'm sorry we gave you the reading with the very biggest words that we've ever had in a chalice lighting. You win. Well, welcome all to Sanctuary Boston, a community of vibrant worship and real connection, grounded in Unitarian Universalism and open to seekers of all kinds. My name is Matt, and I'm the Director of Community Life here at Sanctuary, and it's good to be with you this evening. I want to particularly invite the folks who are joining us online. I want to welcome you all, and I invite you all to say hello in the chat and just say where you're joining us from so we can see all the places you are connecting from afar. And I'll also invite you all to check out the program and lyric sheet, the link to which is shared in the chat. And at the bottom of the program, there's a bunch of announcements that we're also sharing in the chat now. There's so many things coming up in this spring and the next month or so that I just wanted you all to have time. There are t-shirts to buy. You all know if you want to look stylish this summer, the new summer look is a Sanctuary t-shirt, now in onesies, toddler, and child sizes. So that's adorable. There's also, the retreat is coming up at the end of April, April 26th to 28th. We have a de-escalation training at the beginning of April, April 6th, I believe. We've got small group signups happening now. Some of the groups have already filled up, so do not delay. Check it out and register for those. And we're also going to talk a little bit about a network we're building to support our campus ministry, a network of college alumni from Boston. So I'll share more about that, but I just wanted you all online in particular to be able to check those out in the meantime. I'm so looking forward to our reflection this evening by Aiden, one of our campus leaders at Harvard. And Aiden's going to be reflecting on what it means to live after the apocalypse and what comes next. I, last week, had a particularly exhausting week. And on Wednesday, we had a pandemic reflection where a number of us from Sanctuary gathered online to just tell some stories and try and make some meaning of the last 4 years that we've had together. That ended at 8, I believe. And at 8:30, I joined my family for a reflection of the 5-year anniversary of my dad's passing. And the whole week was just kind of like that. On Friday, I went to play drums for a Shabbat service at a synagogue in Brookline that I visit sometimes that Joanna talked about at our last Sanctuary. And I was so looking forward to it. I was so looking forward to taking some deep breaths, and playing some drums and singing some songs. My spirit, my nervous system really needed it. And 10 minutes into the service, there was a car crash immediately outside the building. We watched a car fall from above the windows to below the windows. I don't even know how that happens. And the worship leaders were fabulous. They sent some doctors to go check on people. They called emergency services. People were being cared for as well as they could. But then we had to go back to worship. And so we after taking some deep breaths and that the leaders led us through, we had spent the next hour having this totally beautiful, grounding, gorgeous service, but with red and blue emergency lights from the ambulance and the fire truck and the police flashing in the windows. And I just kept thinking, how am I supposed to worship when there's an emergency outside our walls? And I thought, well, tonight the emergency is closer, but every time we gather to worship, we know that there's an emergency going on outside of our walls. We can't always see the flashing emergency truck lights in our windows, but they're there. Sometimes they're closer, sometimes they're farther away. And I think in some more conservative fundamentalist communities, they have a lot of very clear answers for how to be spiritual and the right way to be religious. And what I love about Sanctuary is that we hold the complexities, we hold the questions of how do I look inward and center myself, even when there's so much going on outward. How do I speak out in the world? How do I go out into the world to address the emergencies, to take care of the wounded, to try and stop the next accident that I can see is coming? And how do I also take time to balance that so that I can ground myself in community, root myself in tradition, and have the spiritual tools I need to go out into the world better, while also calming my own nervous system, taking some deep breaths when I need it, learning how to calm my own soul and find that grounding and connection. I think that kind of spiritual maturity isn't an easy thing. There aren't easy answers for how to do it, how to balance the inner and the outer, how to listen to that still small voice while there are sirens raging. But I hope it's something we can figure out together. And I'm looking forward to Aiden's reflection to offer us some wisdom on that path. With that, dear ones, let's invite each other into the sacredness of this worship space, a space made sacred by your presence, with these words of welcome. You can read the whole thing with us all together, or you can just pick whichever phrases or words resonate for you, or you can just pick whichever font you like best. If you're feeling bold or a little slanty, you just go with what speaks to you, and we'll say that we welcome you all together, though. That part's mandatory. Ready? We go. Whether you go to church on Sunday morning or light candles on Friday nights, whether you've been hurt by religion, shaped by it, or some of both, whether you're new to spiritual community or a seasoned seeker, whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are, like you mean it, we welcome you. And let's take another couple minutes to welcome each other into this space. We'll invite you to greet your neighbor here in person. In person, folks, be sure to wave to the cameras, particularly the one with the red light on, so you can greet our online participants. And online folks, it's the green light, not red. This one, or this one, all right. Wave to all the cameras. You can't wave to too many cameras. And online folks, we invite you to say hello in the chat, send a message to the whole group, or send a private message welcoming someone. We'll take a few minutes now to greet your neighbor.
Welcome back, everyone. I invite you to put your conversations on pause, maybe resume after worship. Good evening, friends. My name is Narin. I use he and they pronouns. And in the next couple minutes, I want to share with you all a little bit about my experience recently with the general small group in the winter season with Sanctuary. So as I was kind of reflecting on my small group experience, there are kind of two things I want to highlight. One of them to do with kind of the structure of small groups at Sanctuary and my experience of that. And then the other one is a brief anecdote from our final time together about 2 weeks ago. So I have been coming to Sanctuary Boston in person for about 6 months. But before that, I had the experience of doing some things I would say are small group-ish at like youth and young adult events in the Unitarian Universalist universe. And then also maybe some more bona fide small group ministry activities, especially in the midst of college with the pandemic breaking out and me kind of hungry for spiritual connection across space and doing some Zoom ministry with that. So I already knew, okay, small groups, that is a place that I really value. I love being able to take time out to get to know people in that context. And so I sort of battled the chaos of my ever dynamic and schedule and my annoyingly long commute to say, yes, I'm going to try out a Sanctuary Boston small group. And I am so glad that I did. I think to have a dedicated time and space that is protected, in a sense, by a shared covenant and a mutually discerned agreement to enable active listening to each other around a series of topics and with attention to spirituality was really special and more special than I gave credit to. I think a great way of thinking about it is how Pam and Karen, our facilitators, rotated our check-in question, which we popcorned through, and the very last one that we used in our final time together meeting as a Zoom small group was, how are you really? And I think to me, in any other context, it would have been kind of a jarring question. I would have kind of bristled at someone trying to say, yeah, but how are you really doing? Just because there's sort of two kind of responses I prepare for the how are you question. It was maybe the, oh, I'm so overworked, so overstressed, or in my college days, I'm not living, I'm just surviving, but it's great. And then there's also the just, yeah, I'm busy, and it's easy to just kind of go by and move on. But I think by the end of our time together, in what felt too fast to me, we had really created a community of active listening to each other where everyone had an equitable time to speak and be heard, and neither going in with the attention to sort of to share or not to share around any one thing, but sort of rather meeting us where we're at. So I really appreciated that. I think our last session also stood out to me for another reason, and that's because the session was all structured around rest and recuperation, really. And recently in my life, being pretty fresh out of college, having moved to Boston and working in an intense nonprofit that is very grassroots and constantly having some work emergency or another, it was difficult for me to sort of vent to friends and say, yeah, I feel overworked. I feel like those work-life boundaries are really difficult. But then I sort of realized this is also a spiritual concern for me. And so I think being able to share in the space of my small group where we had really quickly created a bond to be able to kind of bear witness to the highs and the lows of the lives of each of us as they're showing up for us in real time, I think was a real blessing. So for me, being able to share with the small groupers, what it's been like to try and have work-life boundaries, it really sort of moved me to feel like I can take the agency and actually take a Sabbath practice that I've been trying to do for myself on Saturdays, which is really just taking half of the day to do what I want and with the people who I want, and not feel pressured to be pulled into all of the other needs and asks that are kind of coming my way during the week. So I think just having the group of listeners and speakers in our little small group was really supportive and allowed me to kind of move from making that a lofty goal to something that I am actively kind of trying on for size. So I 2 days ago went ahead and signed up for a spring small group. So I think you're getting the idea. I really would recommend trying out Sanctuary Boston small groups, whether you've done them before, but if you were like me and you're just a newcomer to Sanctuary Boston small groups, I think that both that structure of creating a space bounded by time boundaries and the commitment to building real community is a really special opportunity. So I would highly recommend. Thanks for listening.
We are going.
We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah,
We are
yeah.
going.
We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Our reading for tonight is an excerpt from Parable of the Sower, chapter 5. In Octavia Butler's novel, Parable of the Sower, Lauren Olamina reflects on her post-apocalyptic world and how their parents view it differently. Our adults haven't been wiped out by a plague, so they're still anchored in the past, waiting for the good old days to come back. But things have changed a lot, and they'll change more. Things are always changing. This is just one of the big jumps instead of the little step-by-step changes that are easier to take. People have changed the climate of the world. Now they're waiting for the old days to come back.
I've been thinking a lot lately about the end of the world. Why, you might ask? Oh, no reason. It might have something to do with the all-consuming existential dread that seems to define so many of our lives these days, but other than that, it's difficult to treat that dread as anything other than a weakness. But what we're feeling is real, and I think, just maybe, there's something we can make from it. On March 13th, 2020, 4 years ago last week, I was in high school in Taunton. Every year, my high school Latin class celebrated the Ides of March, the date on which Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BCE. We all wore togas and paraded through the halls reciting monologues from Shakespeare's play, Julius Caesar. I was Mark Antony, so I got the friends, Romans, countrymen bit. Even then, when we were still going through all the motions, the entire thing felt off. Things were slowly being canceled due to the spreading virus, and we all knew it was only a matter of time before our school was shut down. My friend posted about the parade that afternoon, and the caption was, "The only thing that didn't get canceled for Corona." We joked about it, but we were all uneasy. We had seen the signs. That night, my school district shut down for 1 week. Oh, how optimistic we all were. It was easy to treat March 13th, 2020 as a dividing line in time. I, like many people, began to use the language of before and after to make sense of the cataclysmic change that had taken place. There was the before, when I walked around without a mask and ate indoors at restaurants and, went to school, and there was the after, when none of that happened. March 13th itself was the end with a capital E, separating the before from the after. We were living in the post-apocalypse. But as the post-apocalypse dragged on, I couldn't escape the feeling that maybe the apocalypse of COVID-19 had actually been pretty short. The world was continuing, but it hadn't really healed. Political divides, racial disparities, and an institutional disregard for elderly and immunocompromised people were the apocalypses now. But none of these were new. Could they really be apocalypses if they had been around for so long? When I came to college in August 2021, lots of students around me simply refused to wear masks. It's fine, they would say. It doesn't affect people like us. The apocalypse was over for them, in a way. I had enough privilege that it could be over for me too. I could uncover my nose and mouth if I just covered my eyes and ears. I could pretend the good old days were still here. I just needed to ignore the apocalypses raging outside. Somehow, the world had ended, and the after looked almost exactly like the before. And if it looked so much like the before, then what was I so worried about? Had the world really ended at all? In the early pandemic, I turned to the same place that I've turned many times before, dystopian fiction. I especially turned to Suzanne Collins's The Hunger Games, a favorite series of mine. It's your classic post-apocalypse. The story is set in Panem, a nation set on the ruins of the United States. The trilogy of books follows a young protagonist as she becomes the figurehead of a class revolution that establishes a democratic government. It's a powerful story of making something from the end of the world. The old system is gone, so we need to do something new. The work is hard, but it's worthwhile. I felt like I had witnessed the end of the world too, so maybe I could also make something from it. And yet there was a disconnect. If they were living in the after, in Panem, that meant that I was living in the before. And what was I to make of that? I felt as if I couldn't grieve what had happened in my own world. If anything, I should be celebrating. At least I don't have it as bad as they do. In these novels, things are bad because the status quo has been broken somehow. But if I was living in the before, then the status quo didn't seem all that great either. Then I read a book recommended to me by many in this community, Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. The novel follows Lauren Olamina as she navigates America in the 2020s. There's one catch. To her and to the reader, the world has clearly ended. Neighborhoods are walled off from the outside world, labor and climate conditions have deteriorated, corruption is rampant. But the adults around Lauren never see it that way. To them, these are merely bad times in the before, times from which the nation will soon recover. In many ways, their belief is justified. Technology has improved, humanity has traveled to Mars, the United States still exists, its quality of life has just declined. But when I reached that passage that we read earlier, something finally clicked. Nothing had really changed, and the world ended anyway. The after looked like the before. Butler doesn't give us the luxury of knowing for certain that the world has ended. There is merely the now and the question. I saw a lot of myself in Lauren Olamina as I was reading. I'm 21 years old, which means that until recently, the United States was actively at war for my entire life. I've only ever witnessed the 21st century and the horrors that have come with it. I've never felt like I was witnessing bad times in the before. In many ways, it seemed like the world had ended before I was born. Basically, every week in high school, I would go to visit my grandmother and we would watch MSNBC together. The anchors would talk about how this or that would finally change things. Maybe it was the Mueller report, maybe it was January 6th, maybe it was the first or second impeachment. They talked about how people would finally see what needed to be done, that the good old days would come back. But I'd never seen the good old days. It was odd to eulogize a world that I had never experienced, to feel so deeply the loss of a world I had never known. Like Lauren, I have only seen one kind of world, a world that feels like the after. Reading Parable of the Sower gave me permission to grieve. Lauren's world had ended in the same way mine was ending. The things that ended her world were serious and deserved to be mourned, so maybe I could mourn them too. And yet, the end wasn't the end. Like in every post-apocalypse, Lauren doesn't just sit there and take it. She mourns, she grieves, and then she gets to work. Her answer to the end of the world is to create a new religion. This religion, Earthseed, teaches that God is change, that believes in human harmony with nature, and aspires to a future where humanity lives among the stars. She creates a small Earthseed community, and as the novel progresses, it starts to grow. A new community built on care, respect, and trust rising out of the ashes of a fallen world. For Lauren, the first step in creating something new was to acknowledge that she was living in the after. Yes, the old systems didn't work. Yes, the world had ended. But she was still around. And so were a lot of other people. Maybe if they put their heads to it, they could rebuild. A few weeks ago, I found a striking parallel to Octavia Butler in a pretty unlikely place, the epic poem Balaam Ki Wile by the Roman poet Lucan. He describes the civil war that ended Rome's democracy, though I'll be honest, I am partial to the Taunton High School parade version of the story. The destruction that the war had caused could still be felt even a century later. To him, the Civil War was the end of the world, and the carnage was a constant reminder that he was living in the after. Making the war an apocalypse gave him permission to grieve. And yet, Lucan approaches his long, mournful poem with a spirit of optimism. When I read him, I see myself. Lucan wrote this poem in his 20s. And when I read his poem, I see a young person trying to understand how things went wrong, but I also see a young person knowing for certain that things can be better. The end was beyond our control, but we can still rebuild in the after. Perhaps, he says, the war was a first step toward Rome's future glory. Perhaps there are better days to come. The more I read, the more I felt like Lucan, Lauren, and I were all kind of similar. We all inherited a world that felt damaged beyond repair. The good old days weren't coming back. But once we all decided that the world had ended, better days were possible. We were no longer bound to systems that had never worked for us. We could grieve, and then we could try something different. Making something from grief is hard. It's even harder when the grief is this deep, the grief for the world. But post-apocalyptic stories never just deal with the end. They deal with the after. They make something of the after. Saying that the world ended can often feel like a step too far. After all, the end is supposed to look like a robot uprising or a comet impact or something like that. But unlike in the stories, the apocalypse usually doesn't call itself the apocalypse. When we're told to fear what comes next, what hasn't happened yet, we're forced to feel like the status quo is fine, like our dread isn't legitimate. Yes, COVID was an apocalypse, but so is systemic racism, so is colonialism, so is war, so is greed, so is hatred. Calling these forces apocalypses acknowledges their world-ending power. It gives us permission to grieve, but it also gives us permission to reject the old system and rebuild. I don't think we have to fear what comes next. I think we have a pretty good idea of what it'll look like. It's happening now, which means that we can do something about it now. The universe will not tell us when it becomes necessary. We have to do that ourselves. A few months ago, I became very sick. It wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it wiped me out for several days. When I finally started improving and returned to the outside world, wearing a mask was practically second nature. I mean, I had so many of them lying around. It was something small that I could do to rebuild. Before the world ended in 2020, I didn't own any face masks, and now I'm surrounded by the carnage of the end of the world. But every time I put one on, it's a reminder of the end and a reminder of the after. And it's a charge to make the after better than the before. This week, as we mourn the anniversaries of a myriad of apocalypses, from the death of a dictator 2,068 years ago to the global shutdown 4 years ago, let us remember that the world has ended before, and each and every time, it begins again.
We have come
In the light,
to this place
in the light,
with our hearts
in the light,
open wide. We are here
in the light,
giving voice
in the light,
to the truth
in the light.
we divine. Let us sing for today. Let us learn better ways, showing love, giving hope. We create better days. We are born,
In the dark,
we are fed,
in the dark,
we connect
in the dark,
through the veil. We are held,
in the dark,
we are healed.
in the dark,
Mysteries we reveal. Let us sing for today. Let us learn better ways, showing love, giving hope. We create better days. Time is now
we begin,
where we are.
we begin,
We have all
we begin,
that we need to renew, to release,
we begin,
to rebuild, to believe. Let us sing for today, and let us learn better ways, showing love, giving hope. better days. Let us sing for today. Let us learn better ways, showing love, giving hope. We create better days.
Whoa. Salam alaikum. Peace be with you. There is an emergency going on outside of our walls. And for Palestinians in Gaza, it feels like the end of the world. As we know, Gaza is in the midst of a humanitarian collapse and is approaching total famine. Over 30,000 Gazans, the majority of whom are children, have died, which is likely a vast undercount due to massive amounts of dead bodies stuck under the rubble of Gaza's destroyed buildings. More than half of those buildings have been destroyed. This is due to the illegal collective punishment and war crimes committed by the current far right-wing government of Israel in retaliation for Hamas's brutal and horrific attacks on October 7th, from which they still hold innocent hostages. Today's offering will go to the Disability Visibility Project's fundraiser called Crips for eSIMs for Gaza project. The Disability Visibility Project is an online community dedicated to creating, sharing, and amplifying disability media and culture. In an act of solidarity, the Disability Visibility Project has identified eSIMs as one of the few ways to get a needed resource into Gaza due to the partial blockade of goods on Gaza's borders. These digital SIM cards, I don't know if you remember in the before times where we had those little cards that we put into our phones that had the phone number on it. They can be digital now in the after. These digital SIM cards last 20 days and have unlimited data. These can help Palestinians contact family, engage in citizen journalism, and access critical safety information. It may not be much, but it's at least something, as knowledge and information is power for all of us. This project has raised over $300,000 already, with over 4,000 eSIMs purchased and sent, with over 1,000 currently active and in use. They have a financial transparency and accountability document as well. The digital SIM cards are sent via Connecting Gaza, a movement championed by Egyptian writer and activist Myrna El-Helbawi. Folks in person have the opportunity to give donations to our greeters, who will be walking around with a plate, but try to do it digital. We are in the after times, after all. You can scan the QR code or check your emails. For those of you online, you can use the links in the chat box to donate on Venmo or PayPal. You can find us directly on Venmo at Sanctuary Boston, at Sanctuary Boston. You can also link to the QR code on the screen. And if you've written a joy or sorrow on one of our cards, we'll also collect those now during the music. Hopefully, the end is not the end.
We arrive together this evening, bringing all the joys and sorrows of our complex lives here with us. Maybe we bring the end of the world, or the new world is sitting in our pocket waiting. Some of us arrive here wrestling difficult things, feeling the pain of a broken world. And some of us arrive full of blessings and brimming with gratitude. I have some joys and sorrows from those of us here in person to share. From Moira, this is a sorrow. My friend is moving away on April 12th. From Mirabelle, this is a joy. My birthday is in 3 days and it's Taylor Swift themed. That's making me rethink my birthday theme. I have a mixture to share. This is a sorrow for the anniversary of a beloved friend and coworker. I would have loved to introduce him to this space. And also a joy that I was blessed to share in rituals of remembrance with others. Jessie shares a joy. My friends at work got me a birthday cake. Ashley shares a joy. I'm starting seminary at BU School of Theology in the fall. I have a mixture to share. My partner hospitalized due to mental health crisis. Glad they are getting the help they need, but it is a hard experience for the both of us. I have a joy from Leona. My mom knows I have been a bit stressed recently, so she's been sending me daily dog pictures of our family's 13-year-old golden doodle. It brings me so much joy every single day. My final joy from the room is that it's my own birthday, and I'm delighted to be here with you all. Would you join in singing with me, There Is a Love? There is a love. Oh.
like to invite those of you who are joining us online to share any joys or sorrows you have in the chat box. I'll share them out loud here from the microphone, and if you'd like me to keep it anonymous, please message me directly. My name is Joys and Sorrows Phoebe, parentheses, she, her. C shares a joy, time together with my partner, who has been so supportive, loving, empathetic, and patient as I have had some struggles, particularly this month. Lurleen shares, I was recently diagnosed with lung cancer. Seeing the surgeon Friday. Grateful for the support of so many friends. Shaya shares, a friend is in a conflict at work, and it's really hard to see a way out of it. Carol shares a joy. I was invited to the intermediate worship course by the Unitarian College, United Kingdom. Sarah shares, grateful for my professor Gail. It's her 90th birthday today. She is someone who has been working for just about all those years for a world in which we can all live with peace, justice, creativity, and wonder. Bobby shares, loved to see our grandson in his senior play and also felt sad his grandpa couldn't be there. Nathan shares joy at the reawakening of the nature and natural world from the slumber of winter. Final joy from Hannah. Joy, my cousin who had a fall and was in the hospital is now home getting the care that she needs. As we hold these joys and sorrows, spoken and unspoken, in our hearts, let's sing There Is a Love one more time. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. Please join me now in the spirit of prayer. However prayer moves through your body, maybe you need to wiggle. Maybe you need to settle in deeply. Maybe you need to take a deep breath. Spirit of life, spirit of joy, and the new world coming, be with us. Help us to find peace and love. Help us to face conflict with courage. Spirit, help us to be kind. Help us to be brave. Spirit, open our hearts to change. Help us imagine a world where all are safe, where all are loved and held in your embrace. Spirit, help us get ready for what comes next, and help us to know that we may never be ready. Help us to hold one another through the joys and sorrows in our lives. Remind us to reach our hands out, to grasp one another, and to hold on. Give us permission to grieve. Let us give each other permission to grieve what we have lost, to reject broken systems and to rebuild them. Let us give one another joy and love and a lot of birthday cake. Another world is not only possible, she is on her way. All this I pray. Amen, and blessed be.
Our sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through with thanksgiving. We are a living sanctuary anew.
This is the time where we have our candle lighting ritual. We'll start by singing Sanctuary one more time through, and then we'll switch to humming. And at that time, I invite you all to stand as you'd like to and come grab a taper and light one of the candles at our candle tables. I think there's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Maybe one at the back. And as you pass the taper to the next person, I invite you to take that moment to recognize and honor the spark of transcendent light in each of you and the light that we create when we come together. Let us sing Sanctuary one more time through.
Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through with thanksgiving. We are a living sanctuary
My friends, the world is ending all around us, but it is also beginning all around us. Let us grieve more fully the pains of the past, but let us build more creatively the world of the future. And as we heard from our chalice lighting, the only way to correctly predict the future is to pave it, is to brave it. The breakage is where we begin.
I feel the current raging around me. Try to summon up my strength once more. I am weary on this journey, afraid I will not reach that distant shore. I cry for help, feel like I'm sinking. There is no one near me I can see, but there you are in the water with me. You take my hand and guide me graciously. Will you come with me on this journey? With every breath we take, keep reaching for the dawn. I know alone that I will falter. With a good friend near me, I will carry on. There is a kindness in your smile and a gentleness within your speech. You reassure me, your love surrounds me, and I know safety is at last within my reach. Will you come with me on this journey? With every breath we take, keep reaching for the dawn. I know alone that I will falter. With a good friend near me, I will carry on. It's an illusion we carry with us as we wade on through the waters of our lives. That we must be strong and hold our own here, but a helping hand will save us by and by. Will you come with me on this journey? With every breath we take, keep reaching for the dawn. I know alone that I will falter, but with a good friend near me, I will carry on. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. Will you come with me on this journey? With every breath we take, keep reaching for the dawn. I know alone that I will falter, but with a good friend near me, I will carry on. It's the end of the world as we know it.
Thank you, band, for particularly rocking it tonight. Mark David, our fearless music director. Alex, Tayward, Lucas, Ashley, and our special new guest, maybe more than guest, Levy. Thank you for joining us, Levy. Norrin, thank you for your testimonial, and Aiden, thank you so much for sharing a message this evening.